All right, viewers, let me take you straight into the storm. In a move that has caught global attention, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have jointly announced their withdrawal from the International Criminal Court, ICC, a decision that marks yet another step in their growing push for independence from foreign influence. The three Sahel nations released a strong statement describing the ICC as an instrument of neo-colonial repression, accusing it of unfairly targeting African and less privileged nations while ignoring major powers accused of similar or worse crimes. According to the joint declaration, the governments of these countries say they will no longer recognize the authority of the ICC and instead plan to establish indigenous mechanisms to handle crimes of war, genocide, and human rights violations within their own borders. Each of the three nations, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, is currently led by military governments that came to power between 2020 and 2023. Their message was clear: African justice should be defined and enforced by Africans themselves, not by external institutions they believe serve political interests. Their statement described the ICC as selective in its prosecutions, a criticism that has been heard across Africa for many years. Since its founding, the ICC has prosecuted numerous African leaders and politicians, while many observers have pointed out that powerful countries and their allies often avoid accountability. Former African heads of state have spent years in detention only to be released later, without conviction, raising questions about bias, fairness, and credibility. In their joint statement, the Sahel nations also criticized the ICC's silence over what they described as obvious crimes against humanity and genocide happening elsewhere in the world. A veiled reference many believe was directed toward the ongoing conflict involving Israel and Palestine, though no country was mentioned by name. This announcement comes shortly after a delegation of U.S. Republican senators visited Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, where discussions reportedly included the question of ICC membership. Interestingly, the United States itself is not a member of the ICC, nor are Russia, China, or Israel. Now, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso join that list, saying they intend to create their own tribunals to handle such cases on African soil by African judges. International observers have reacted with mixed opinions. Dr. Maxine Rubin, a postdoctoral research fellow at the German Institute of Global and Area Studies, shared her perspective in a recent interview. She noted that while the
criticism of the ICC as neocolonial has been a popular narrative since the 2000s, the current move may also reflect political motivations tied to recent changes in leadership across the Sahel. All three nations experienced military coups in recent years and have since aligned themselves more closely with Russia, a country that also faces an ICC arrest warrant for President Vladimir Putin over alleged war crimes in Ukraine. Rubin suggested that this geopolitical alignment could be part of the reason behind their collective withdrawal. Her analysis raises a larger question. Are these countries rejecting the ICC because they see it as unjust, or because they want to avoid possible scrutiny in the future? As she explained, nations that prefer not to expose themselves to the court's jurisdiction often choose not to join in the first place. Countries like the United States, China, Russia, and Israel never signed up to the ICC, arguing that it might compromise their national sovereignty. Meanwhile, many African countries initially supported the ICC in hopes that it would act as an equalizer, bringing accountability even to powerful states. But over the years, that vision has faded as the court's limitations and selective prosecutions became more apparent. Now, as Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger step away from the ICC, they face a new challenge. Can they build a truly independent system of justice that protects human rights, ensures accountability, and avoids the pitfalls of political manipulation? Creating such systems will not be easy, but for many in the region, this move represents a symbolic stand for sovereignty after decades of perceived external control. Their message is simple: Africa can judge itself. The withdrawal of these three Sahel nations marks a turning point in Africa's relationship with global institutions. Whether this path leads to justice or isolation remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the debate over who gets to define justice in the modern world is far from over. Thanks for watching. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps bring more stories of transformation, hope, and resilience to the world, and tells about African lights.